Hi guys, welcome back to the Hi Ho Studios Cave. Today I'm not joined by Carl and Jan, I'm joined by Jan and Julia, who is the head of digital at Brand Candy.
Hello.
Today we're going to just talk about once you've got your podcast filmed, we've talked a lot about that process. You've hosted it on a hosting platform, now you've got your content sitting online. What do you do from that point of view? We haven't touched too much on the marketing side of it. So obviously this is Jules's specialty. So what's the next steps?
I think next steps and the first point of action would be social media, specifically platforms like Instagram and TikTok. It's the new trend these days that short form video content is the go-to to reach new audiences. So yeah, that would be step one if you're filming your podcast, obviously, to cut down snippets and put it out there. And it's about testing and figuring out what works.
Yeah, we've pretty much come to the conclusion that you get by far the most mileage from filming your podcast. We've had a lot of discussion about the audio versus the video. So filmed, you can now do a hell of a lot more with it, and you open yourself up to more platforms. What would when you say put it on social media, how? Like what do we do?
So the big thing with short form video content is obviously you want to be capturing users' attentions in that first 5 seconds. I think if you're just filming yourself, obviously in videos, you've got things like visual hooks and audio hooks. With a podcast, obviously it's a little more organic. So you've got to find that moment with the person you're talking to that works well. You got to create individual snippets of that content.
The most important thing is prepping for the platforms that you're going to share your content on and knowing what they need in terms of the format. So Instagram, TikTok, those platforms you just mentioned, Jules, those are going to be looking for portrait video content, whereas YouTube is going to be looking for landscape. Obviously, if you're doing your shorts, those can also be portrait. So going into the production phase with the knowledge of what you're going to be utilizing afterwards means you can plan and be organized for that. You're not sitting in post and going, oh, flip now, I also need a clip like this and a clip like that. And then obviously if there's any paid media that you're planning for, then that format and structure is even more important because it's going to have ad spend behind it.
Yes, and as you start posting, you start to figure out what kind of clips get a good reaction out of your audience, what gets good reach. And from there, I would say that's when you start to figure out whatever's performing best, you boost.
You'd recommend boosting?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
I think the great thing about social media is you don't have to have a huge budget to boost. You can start with small amounts, play around, and it's a great way to just broaden the reach of that content.
So maybe I am a bit naive in this space, but I have never boosted a thing. What would it have like a call to action? If you boost something, would it just boost the post as it is,
If it's
right?
organic, there'll be the call to action that's in your caption. Ideally, you should have sometimes you can have add-ons to your podcast snippets. So if you've got like an opening or a closing, that might have some sort of standard call to action, follow along, those kinds of things. But when you boost, if I think about boosting on Instagram, for example, a really great boosting method would be boosting for profile visits. That's great for growing your following, getting the content out there, and it'll automatically add a bit of a call to action that says visit profile, basically.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. If you're a business and you make a podcast, maybe this is more of a general marketing question, would your podcast have its own profile? Would you make a profile for the name of your podcast?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you think of the likes of Stephen Bartlett, he's got his personal brand that he's built out, where he's got multiple businesses, and I think one of his sort of projects is that Diary of a CEO, and he's got his own page for that. It's definitely, if we're looking at great examples, he's done it right.
I think that is a perfect example of when it's useful to have a separate profile, and I think the other reason to have a separate profile is if you are looking at one niche element of your audience. So if you are maybe a retail brand or an insurer or a bank, or somewhere where your audience is massive and a broad demographic is covered. If you are creating a podcast and you're looking to maybe, I don't know, say for example, grow a more youthful following, then creating a separate profile will allow you to separate the podcast from the greater brand with that specific focus to speak to that particular audience. It can almost start existing as a sub-brand, and you can target people a little bit more specifically with that content. I think the answer to the question is really always got to be about what is the objective. And if the objective is to kind of separate that content out a little bit from the greater brand, then yes, a separate profile would make sense.
If it's branded content, which we get a lot of, would it not make sense to use it to boost the brand's profile?
Well, the great thing about platforms like Instagram is that you can share to two platforms at once with collaborative posts. So you get the reach from both. So if you, for example, build up a great presence with the podcast, then your business will naturally benefit from it.
Okay, cool. And then are there any other benefits of having a podcast online that could boost SEO or anything like that?
Yeah, so a great hack around that is transcribe your podcast into words, and if you upload that onto your website, SEO that page around the specific topic, it's great for.
So should we build blog post podcast pages on our websites?
Definitely, yes.
Okay, cool.
Having a bit of a podcast archive with the actual audio snippet and then transcription.
The text, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, if you upload a transcript to Spotify, so if you've got an audio podcast and you upload that to Spotify with the transcript file, you can actually read along while you listen to the podcast, which is great if you are maybe not listening, but you're reading, you forgot your headphones, you're in bed, one of those.
Give me some more examples.
So, that transcription is potentially already created for other things.
Yeah.
And putting it on your website to generate organic traffic is great.
Great way to get out there.
Great way.
And I think the transcriptions on YouTube too, because YouTube is a search engine and and is owned by Google.
Well, all social platforms contribute to your SEO as well. So
Yeah.
anything you're putting out there helps.
Okay, Jules, so if I'm launching a new podcast, now I want to obviously create an audience. And then after a while, once I've got an audience, what do I do then in terms of marketing?
Okay, so in your start, obviously you're focusing on social media as we discussed. You're just getting the brand out there. You want to be creating awareness. And then, the next phase is to what do you do with this audience? And the best next step is to deplatform them, in essence. You can't just have these audiences out there in social media. You want to actually do something with them. So the greatest next step would be email marketing. So figuring out a piece of content that would be of interest to them, like a lead magnet, for example, and getting them, sharing it with them, saying, download this, sign up to get access.
Yeah.
And then you have a database of people that you can communicate with on the regular in a more personalized format when you collect that data.
Okay.
I guess then you're also you're not relying on them listening to your podcast.
Yes, you're not relying on social algorithms.
Yeah. I guess, again, going back to what the objective is for the podcast really in the first place, a good understanding of that is going to make a big difference in terms of you deciding how to promote it and who you're promoting it to.
Yes.
And I think to your point about kind of moving them out of the places where that information about those customers isn't your own and you are beholden to another set of rules, So if your whole audience exists on YouTube or on Meta, that doesn't necessarily mean they are yours really at all.
Yes.
And I think for businesses that are looking to actually make a difference to their revenue, those customers have to join them in the real world at some point.
The business would have an objective that this is a marketing exercise after all. So you have to shift towards fulfilling that marketing objective at some point.
I think at the end of the day, podcast content and podcasting is a channel. And when it comes to specifically digital marketing, you're going to promote it like you would promote any of your other channels. You've got all of the platforms available to you, and you've also got to decide, where do you want that sort of funnel to exist? Do you want everyone to come to your website? Do you want them to subscribe to your newsletter? Do you want them to buy your product on an online retailer or in a brick and mortar store? So when you have that understanding, you can then decide, right, how do I promote my podcast in the broader mix of marketing activities?
I think the thing that I love the most is just the amount of content you get from a podcast
Yes.
episode.
Yes.
Yeah,
And the multiple platforms that content is useful on.
especially video. Yeah,
Yes. It's a great idea to bring guests onto your podcast that either have their own podcast that's successful or are
just
someone,
any kind of following.
someone that has a following.
Yes.
Exactly. So, the thing about podcasts is that they are already collaborative in nature. They're conversations. And so bringing someone else in that obviously suits your audience is going to help you grow, because potentially that person has their own audience. They're interested to hear what they have to say. Then thus they're interested in what you have to say, and you can grow your audience in that way. So sharing your audiences with other podcasters is
leveraging
great.
the guest's audience as well.
Just make sure that that person makes sense for your audience. Don't invite a person just for their following. They've got to make sense for your audience.
Well, they've got to be relevant. Yeah,
They've got to be relevant, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, guys. Thanks, Jules, for coming down to the cave.
Thank you for having me.
we call it. I'm sure we'll see you soon.
Definitely.
Guys, let us know in the comments if you have any questions about how to promote your podcast, and we'll see you guys soon. Cheers.
Cheers.